Yeah, so my name is Ivo Bernardo. Bernardo is my surname, very Portuguese name. And I'm one of the partners and data scientist as well of DareData AI, a company that sets up machine learning systems for different enterprises. And we are also building a product that is basically enterprise AI system for these large companies that have a lot of databases and stuff like that on their site. We'll get there at the end. And I'm based in Lisbon, actually.
Nice. Well,
So
how's the weather there in Lisbon this time of year?
it's UK weather right now, so it will make you feel better for sure
Yeah,
because
happy
it's
day.
super UK, super UK.
Shout out to the
Okay,
UK.
well, before we dive too deep, then let's step back and give us a quick introduction to how you got into data science and AI.
Okay, so cool. I started more in the engineering side of things, so setting up databases and all that stuff, like the really the iron part of this data work, where you're just like doing all the heavy lifting. And then it was like 10 years ago, I've decided that I really enjoy the machine learning part. It was kind of early in the days of this new crazy wave that happened in machine learning. And I started working in those areas with first by doing credit scoring. So I was mostly building machine learning models for credit scoring, and then jumped to the retail sector, which is a very interesting area to work on machine learning because it has a lot of data points, a lot of products, a lot of customers, and so that was very interesting for me to work on, and I had the chance to work very early on my career on those machine learning problems in these industries. Mostly, I would say, it was a happy ending in terms of my career because I was actually studying history in high school, so it was a very interesting jump from history to going into a statistics college. Don't ask me how that went because it was a bit random,
That
honestly.
was the next
Uh,
question, so we'll avoid that then. Yeah.
it was super random. Just out of luck, I ended up in that college. I ended up enjoying data mining and how machine learning was called in the ancient ages, data mining. And I ended up enjoying that course, and then naturally ended up working with machine learning systems because of
Data
it.
mining, and the ancient age is now 10 years ago,
Yep,
slightly over,
that's
is
They're
crazy
actually
to think.
learning. If you do a history course these days, that's what they learn about data mining 10 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
you hear that as basically a prehistoric term right now. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah. Yeah. And you're also a guest lecturer, is that right?
yeah, I'm guest lecturer at the same college where I went for the statistics course, not really the
Nice.
history course, as I
Yeah.
could be right now because we are seeing that these fields are becoming too intertwined, AI and history. But I'm a guest lecturer there. I really enjoyed teaching since the beginning of my career. And then I done some Udemy courses, the platform Udemy. I developed some courses during the pandemic. We were all at home doing nothing. So I believed, okay, let's just do something with my time. And I developed the courses for Udemy and then got invited to teach at this college, which I really enjoy. I really enjoy working with students and making them understand everything about how AI is evolving.
So
Nice. And
how
is it kind of
often?
like a
I was going to say, how often are you lecturing there as a guest lecturer?
So it depends. On the first semester, I'm like more between like 1 hour a week, which is the semester where I really go hard and full onto their data work. And then on the second semester, I kind of go more on university side, and I have about 3 to 4 hours a week. So I keep it. Some weeks are more, some weeks are like 8 to 10, depending on the week, but it's a good part time. It's an interesting part time.
nice? And
This
is it
is
kind of
just
like
class time. This is just class time because you have all the other things that you need to
Yeah.
do, like exams, works, preparing projects, preparing the classes, which is outside of this weekly average.
yeah, the really fun part? So to sort of dive into your company, the DareData kind of company that you created, what actually inspired you in the first place to create it? And how has it grown? Is it because it's the fastest growing AI company in Portugal? Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow.
we still have that title, and I hope we can continue to have it because those are good news.
Yeah,
But what
yeah.
inspired us? What inspired us was, I think, a pretty simple idea. By the time that we started working in this area, mostly people just were developing machine learning systems using notebooks, the so-called Jupyter notebooks, and notebooks where you just show code and text, but without any application in the business. It was very hard to extract like a return on investment from these types of developments, which were pretty scientific. And so when we started, we wanted to combine, like, bring more of the software side, as a lot of, like, we didn't reinvent the wheel. This was already being done in startups in the US, particularly in Silicon Valley. But we had kind of this combination of people with data science background, but also software engineering background. And we believed that we had something unique to offer here in the market in Portugal because we combined both of these so well. And that was what inspired us to start DareData. Also, we were a bit tired of seeing a lot of companies just promising people that they would work in AI and they ended up doing dashboards. So
Yeah.
that was the second derivative of starting DareData, the second reason of why we started. And the combination of both ended up having a cool company to work with, and people enjoyed working with us, and we could bring more value to our customers using AI, which it's not easy to do,
Yeah,
particularly in
that's such a
enterprises.
buzzword. And that's such a great quote. People being promised AI jobs and you work on dashboards. Um, so what industries
The
then?
lesson there for all graduates there. Avoid the word dashboards in job
Yeah,
applications and job adverts.
what,
Sometimes the problem is that they hide the word dashboards more normally. They
yeah,
promise
yeah,
that, yeah, do you know Python and scikit-learn and PyTorch? And then, oh, PyTorch, I meant Power BI. No, it wasn't PyTorch. It was Power BI. I don't know. Where
yeah,
have you heard it?
yeah. What a time. Okay, so what industries though are you focusing on with that? Like where specific? Is it very broad? Anything in AI driven data, or is it very
Yeah.
specific?
So starting, we were very focused on telecommunications, retail, and government because the three partners had a lot of history with those industries. So it was natural. We were doing services. People from those industries trusted us because we had business expertise, and that business expertise was very important for the classical machine learning side of things. Right now with Gen AI, I still think it's important, but maybe the importance, the weight on business expertise, it's maybe coming down a bit. Uh, I don't know. This is a personal opinion, but let's see. Uh, but but we started more on those industries, and now as we are building product, we also have a product side on the company. I think we're becoming more broad, but at the same time focusing on a certain type of customers. For example, enterprises are the customers where we work with the most because those are also the ones that have more issues in making these systems work with their business processes, which are, of course, enormous and gigantic, so, and very diverse as well. So that's mostly how the evolution of the target customers that we have has naturally shifted throughout the years. So, but mostly very broad as well in terms of industries. It has been very broad.
Are they connected though? So it's retail, telecommunications, and government.
Yeah, they're
Okay,
kind of
so
connected.
yeah, I mean, I can see vague, like obviously I could make up an assumption, but how they seem also at the same time very disconnected, right? Obviously, telecommunications and government is one thing, but retail seems like a totally separate sector. So, is there a lot of like overlapping problems you're solving for all of them?
Yeah, great question. I think that's an awesome question. We call it the service product model, kind of. So there are like 60 to 70% of the problems that these businesses have in adding AI to their business is kind of the same, which is it doesn't connect with my enterprise systems, with my databases and legacy databases. I have a lot of disconnected use cases inside my company because marketing is doing bought some AI stuff, vertical stuff to solve their problem. Finance also bought their own stuff, and then sales also bought their own stuff. And there's no connection in terms of how these systems talk to each other, which kind of impairs the whole idea of having a AI backbone in the company. And the third one is performance, which is all these enterprises suffer from performance issues. The AI systems don't actually solve the majority of the problems that they have inside the company for their business cases. So we believe that this is more a difference, although the industries are important, we believe that this is more a difference of you are an enterprise with a lot of business processes to implement AI on, or you are a startup that are just starting and everything is AI based because you just leverage all the AI tools that you have available. You don't really have the SAPs to do your invoices and to do your HR, or the I don't know, the DB2 databases that no one looks into right now but need to integrate with my AI processes. And the startups don't have that. The companies that are like scale ups also don't have that, but enterprises have them a lot. Of course, there's a part of the other part, which is the 30% that I left out, is very, very service focused for us, which is there are specific needs of each industry that are very difficult to solve in a product sense for AI. At least that's our vision. We don't know if it's true, but we are kind of betting on it with our product. That there's a 70% that is transferable across multiple enterprises,
Yeah.
and there is 30% that will always need some part of service or consulting on top of it, particularly with AI, because these companies are huge, are very, very complex.
Do you mean it's like kind of it's someone's job to sort of handhold them through using a tool to actually leverage AI in their ecosystem?
Yeah, and I think that majority of enterprises are also they're also, I think, and with some reason behind it, I believe, which is they don't really want to handle these systems to a company that will probably, they don't know what's happening in the background. Like if you're going to implement AI systems for critical processes inside your company, you'll want to know to a certain point what's happening on the background, and this probably needs to be open code, for example, which is some part of the transferable problems that we are seeing are like in the 30% that I'm speaking here, these issues that we are seeing across multiple companies. Right now, we are setting up this product with the service on top on 5 or 6 different companies here in Portugal, and all on different sectors. But it's interesting to see that the problems are the same, even if you are a utilities, a postal office, a telecommunications business, and a retail business. If you want to add AI to your business, you always go and have the same problems in this first part. It's interesting, more with generative AI than really with classical machine learning. But that's maybe another derail that we would do here.
Or even data mining. Don't even go there.
Or even data mining. Yeah, let's not go there. But I think business expertise is still very relevant for solving and adding value. But I think that it's kind of becoming a lesser percentage of what it was in classical machine learning, where you needed to work with the features, you needed to understand what were the best features for your business and for your machine learning model manually. So there was a lot of emphasis on knowing that. Right now, with the capacity to have a general model, as we have with the GPT kind of like models and the LLMs, I think it's becoming less important.
Okay.
Let's see if this is true or not.
So, with that in mind, so that if that's kind of like an intro into what you're doing at a wider scale, can you give us any kind of like real world examples of how that's being applied? Maybe there's someone listening who's thinking about getting into this space and they kind of like the theory, but do you have like a kind of like a partner or an example of a company you're working with where you can just explain in more detail exactly what you're doing?
For sure, I think I can explain. So we have 4 types of projects mainly. I'm going to take out the data engineering and machine learning ones, operation ones out of here, because I think we are speaking more and targeted on the data science and machine learning. And there are like 4 types that I can fit into boxes, and I think this description and examples fit in quite nicely. So we have the first is the automation, typical automation processes that you have. For example, here is a question of you have a bunch of boring work that no one wants to do. For example, reading contracts of 2,000 pages about something, and you want to have those typical summarizes or summaries and something that summarizes those documents for a human to read or to fit into a system. For example, I want to summarize something to write an email. So those are typical automation processes that you can build with AI today that I think are very, very interesting. And it's, of course, the low-hanging fruit of these AI systems. One example, practical example that we've done is you have to set up, I don't know how you call this in English. When you have, for example, you want to go to the market to see a provider, you need to build in Portugal a request for proposal. I think it's the same thing, or a request for project, an RFP.
Yes, same. Yeah.
You want to build an RFP. If you are a huge company and you do thousands of them per year, like you don't want to have your legal team just building the same RFP or changing few things from RFP to RFP because it's very, very boring. So one of the tools that we've built on top of our GenOS platform is that you can just build an RFP in seconds based on things that you've given us in the past. For example, you give us a bunch of directions. I want this. So most RFPs regarding this was for an electrical company. So they had electrical stations, and they said electrical stations RFPs need to have this chapter and this chapter and this chapter, and they need to have this format, and the formatting of the document should be this, and the images should be these ones.
Yep.
So we can build that like in 30 seconds based on the new RFP that they want to build. And then in the end, they just validate that document, which is low-hanging fruit of using AI because you can save 8 hours of one person doing it, which is to 1 hour. It reduces to 1 hour with the human just validating. And I think it's like not the most fun work to have, probably.
But that's why it's being automated, I guess, in many ways.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet
so
for
how
you,
do you
I was just going to say, before we move on, I bet for you that is very satisfying work, because I know from personal experience, if you put like a contract into ChatGPT and ask it like for the highlights, or you get a transcript that automatically fills out a doc really easily, one time it's like, oh, that's very satisfying. But I bet showing that to customers and they're like, you've automated this whole thing and we never have to do it again, they must absolutely love that.
Yeah, they absolutely love that. And I think that it's interesting because like most people think that companies are looking into this to fire people. I've not
Okay.
seen so many instances of that, honestly, and I hope we'll continue like that. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of instances of using people on other job roles that are more interesting, and I hope that trend kind of continues. So let's see if that will end up there. But from I'm seeing is that companies are also, I think most companies are also worried of what are they going to do with the people that they have inside. Like, for example, in the projects that we do, there's also an action plan. Okay, so we'll have these people free from this role. What are they going to do next? Do we have a plan to convert them to something else? What is the plan after the project? Because I think that's very, very important. The second type of projects that I wanted to also go there is the augmentation part, and related to people, I'm going there as well, which are very, very interesting. One example that I have is to give people the ability of doing things that they couldn't do before. For example, salespeople let's imagine they are on the field and they need to visit like points of sale. And there are customers, as you know, that they don't pay. An example, right? Some customers just don't pay. And when they go to the point of sale, they sometimes, you know how hard it is to actually give the requirements for every business person for dashboards and for reports, because it's a complete mess. Like most reports fail a lot because people would like to have their own personalized version of the report for them. A lot of like it's very hard to have a large workforce looking into a standard report. And one of the things that they would like to have is, can I have this information about this point of sale quickly? The problem is they don't know SQL. They don't know how to code. And you don't want to put your sales like force learning how to code. You don't want to, that's not what they should focus on. So one of the projects that we've done is actually for people to use natural language to go to databases directly, which is very interesting because they can be on a point of sale and just use a chat interface to say, does customer blah, blah, blah has debt with me in the past, or has he defaulted in the past? And they can get like the immediate answer without having to go to a dashboard on the fly, looking at where is the information and miss like the important part of the conversation with the customer. And that's very cool because they can now tailor their offer. For example, if they see that this customer has defaulted in the past, they're probably not going to give them an offer, because they know, okay, maybe let's see if they pay this offer that they have. I'm not going to upsell them if they have some problems paying. So
Interesting.
we've seen this happening with several use cases, which we call the augmentation, and the third one is the typical chatbot that we all interact with, which is the assistants, what we call the assistants, which is removing part of the conversational layer that humans used to do for AI bots. Can be voice or can be text. I would like to pick up a sentence that you've said, which is like, companies are happy with this thing, that they are basically automating this on a large scale. There's something interesting about the automation part, because one of the things that is really at risk, one of the jobs that is probably most at risk, is call center operators, right? But is that a job that everyone enjoys? Like, when we hear about call center operators, is something that people generally enjoy doing? I don't think so, right? It's
Yeah, I think that is a misconception that the advent of these AI tools is therefore going to directly relate to people being fired. And I also have yet to see it be used in such a way. It's always, okay, now we can do more with less. We can use the same amount of people to do more things. Or it really is that kind of a tool so far. I think it would still be a very poor decision for a company to replace all of their developer power with an
One
AI to some
ChatGPT
extent.
account.
Yeah, or
yeah.
even really good process automation is still not going to, we'll just get rid of half of the team that used to do that process then. It's
Yeah.
like you said, the process that they are automating would have to be quite, I don't know what the best word is here, quite an insignificant of thing in the first place, that if the current standard of AI tools is replacing them,
Yeah. And the majority of AI's tools right now and decision making is quite obvious. I think that the best things in life are probably non-obvious, and that's what employees also bring to the company, right? You have people inside that do non-obvious things that are interesting and that bring advantage to a company in some way. And even with prompts and all that, the models, the LLM models are quite obvious. They always do what seems right.
yeah,
Doesn't mean it's what's right, because they
Yeah.
have trained on what seems right. So
I've
that's their conception of the world.
I've noticed recently, if I write something myself, I have to go back and make sure it doesn't read like an AI wrote it now. Like, I'm writing a document and I'm like, well, I don't want to use any convoluted language or anything even remotely outside of basic, because people would think I just
Yeah,
GPT'd it, which is a very
yeah,
strange full circle to be involved in. Now I'm
it is.
deliberately changing sentences to sound more like me because the previously generic, let's just, I don't know, higher vocabulary riven sentence sounds like an AI told me to say it, and I don't like that anymore.
Yeah, pivotal and astounding. It's like those are
Yeah.
banned words,
Yeah.
banned words from my written language as well,
Yeah.
because it's like,
Empowered.
no,
Yeah.
empowered, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Okay.
stuck in
So
your own. You're stuck in your own large language model now, Dan. You're there and stuck in your own simulation.
yeah, I literally wrote a document out today myself, and then went back and just changed a few bits to make it like, deliberately make a mistake or something, so that people don't think I copy paste it. Which
I
I
And
am
that's
actually
Dan.
that's
What lives in Berlin?
yeah, yeah. That's a very very great argument against the AI detectors, because they really don't work that well. They
no,
don't, like,
no,
the
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Uh,
It is interesting. You can even make it detect yours as AI and AI as not, if you without much tweaking. Yeah, it's strange.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so back on course then. So with all these process automations you deliver to teams, how do you coach the in-house teams themselves? Is it just we've set it up for you, plug and play, or do you teach them to build these processes?
No, we teach them, because we think, well, our motto and the mantra that we've worked with since the beginning is that companies need to own their AI systems. So if they need to own their AI systems, they can be fully dependent on their data to have their AI systems. Of course, we set them up and we help them set them up, and we believe that when we do set them up quite well, they will always call us for everything that they need regarding AI, but they need to own their current systems, and because there's a big risk in terms of these AI models and everything that we are speaking of AI, that the concentration of power is like in a few companies, and that's not good for any system, and particularly for a capitalist system as the one we live today. It's not very, it's not something that we would advise, to have these monopolies on these big tools. And so we always advocate for companies to own their AI systems, understand what they do, and that involves training the people that they have on the inside on how to do it, being via code, being via user interface that we develop for business users to interact with the AI models, via other types of mechanisms that we use when we do a project. But certainly, we think that's the right way to go.
Nice. And maybe on the other end of the spectrum, so you've made a very good case for why companies use AI tools, and especially enterprise level companies. But maybe on a smaller level, actual people using them day to day, because some people are still hesitant, especially people who might be starting their journeys into tech, or taking a boot camp and starting to learn. People might be quite hesitant to start working with AI tools, machine learning. Do you have any advice for those people?
Well, I think you cannot stop the wind with your hands. So that's the most important part, right? So I would say that that's probably something where you'll have to give in at some point in time. It's the same as computers. No one works without a computer today. Or if you work without a computer, even if you are a carpenter, for example, you can work without a computer, but you probably lose a lot if you don't work with a computer, because you can't receive orders by email from your customers, you can't process them, you can be organized, and all those types of things that a computer can bring. So I would say that you'll have to give in at certain point in time. Just leveraging these tools is something that will be very beneficial for the future, and it's not something evil by itself. So by definition, it's not evil, and that's a good place to start. Now, it may be evil if we do something evil with it, but I don't think it's evil by itself, as most technology.
Guns don't kill people, rappers do.
Guns don't kill people. AI kills people if you ask it to.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's just trying to not it's the same as using just pen and paper to work today.
All right. Well, then let's take it another step then to speak to our listeners directly. Anyone who's thinking of taking a boot camp now. Let's talk about the kind of big elephant in the room with getting into coding nowadays. Is it worth still learning to code, or is it now just worth learning how to use AI efficiently?
Yeah. So, first question, yes, definitely, you should learn how to code, because at least in my opinion, and I think it's shared by a lot of people, coding is not learning just to code. It's learning how to think, and that's very, very important. It's learning how to think structurally. It's learning how to develop logic. Is a lot of things that are not just related to coding. Now, I think that you will learn how to code, and the journey on learning how to code will make you learn a lot of things that are not just coding. So I believe that, and it's one of the best ways to learn those things, as I've said, such as logic, such as clearness of thought and writing expression. So all those skills are learned via coding. If you don't like math that much, you can develop logic by practicing with a notebook on math equations. But maybe you would like to develop your logic in another way. Coding is a great way to do it, for example. And it doesn't mean that you'll code professionally as much as everyone was doing in the past. Maybe you will not, but you definitely should learn how to code because of the first thing that I've said. And the second one is that to edit and rewrite and just basically break down everything that an AI is coding for you, you need to know how to. Like, if you don't know, you are basically just a puppet on what the AI model is producing, and you aren't adding any value. But you can add a lot of value if you know how to code and pick up code from an AI model and use it yourself, try to improve it, do some changes, add business logic to that code, which is something very, very important that most people don't take into context. And you can only do that if you know how to code. Like you can pick up, if you want to develop something autonomously, like an AI agent that sets up a database for you. That AI agent has a likely that there's a non-trivial probability that you'll make a mistake somewhere. If you don't understand how SQL works, if you don't understand how Python works, if you don't understand how databases work, you'll never be able to solve it. It will be very, very difficult for you to solve. So those are my two arguments for pro coding, and I'll always stick with them, probably until the end.
It's probably more an attractive skill to learn now than it was even 5-10 years ago, because now once you learn to code, you can use it to do far more powerful things than just rely on your ability to code afterwards.
Exactly. So I would say I'm an average coder. I'm not like the best coder in DareData for sure. There are a lot better coders than I am, but I've seen how, at least with AI, I can get near them. You know, like those very, very good coders. I can get near them, and I'm happy with that, because in the past, what I've done is I relied a lot on Google search to do my coding. I've relied a lot on Stack Overflow to do my coding. Right now, well, that's bad for Stack Overflow, but it's not bad for coders. Few people use Stack Overflow in the same way as they've used before. They now use AI tools, and I find that extremely, extremely interesting for everyone that wants to code. And I've seen that with I in my company, I only need more coders to do these systems. I'm not seeing the demand goes down. I'm only seeing demand for more coders. Of course, the people that I have can be even more productive, but I also would like more coders because they bring a fresh perspective. No coder is equal. No software engineer is equal.
The great irony is that LLMs read Stack Overflow to answer your questions.
Yes, but that's an IP issue that I won't go into because I
don't. So thank you for everything, your insights today. It's been great to hear it. And tell us and our audience how they can hear more about or find out more about DareData.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for having me. It was great to speak to you both. And basically two places. DareData.ai, our website, is our go-to for everything that we do. And the second one is our LinkedIn. Of course, just search for DareData.ai or add me on LinkedIn and go through my profile. Those are the places where we are mostly every day. So,
and remember, they are looking for coders always.
Yeah. Nice.
Exactly.